Hey everybody, spoilers for All of Us Are Dead. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Script Department. I'm joined again by Caleb to discuss All of Us Are Dead. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, do check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net. Hit us up on social media, links in the description. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Script Department for daily discussions like this and script readings from our global network of screenwriters. Give the video a like as well and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Caleb, so we finished All of Us Are Dead. Got to the end credits of the last episode today.
Yep.
And
before the next show started playing.
Yeah. I mean, I saw about 3 seconds of credits before the next trailer popped up. Yeah. So I've got mixed feelings about this. You know, when I started watching the show, I was a bit critical of it. Yeah. When we did our second discussion last week, I was really won over. I thought those 4 episodes were just really strong, 5 to 8. But I did feel that these episodes were treading old ground and not really adding to anything, and ultimately leaving us with questions as to like why that character was really there to begin with, why this character existed at all. I don't know. What was your take on it?
I'm in the same boat. I think we really ended in the same spot because 1 through 4 I feel like I probably liked a little bit better than you did, and then 5 through 8, same. Like, I was intrigued and pulled in. All the characters, I was interested to see where they went, and there's not much in 9 through 12 for me. It really felt like they did everything they wanted to do with the characters, and the whole last 4 episodes are really just plot for the most part. And they and it's funny how it relates to the death count of the show. Like they bring back the just killing everyone while they took a break from that in the middle episodes. So yeah, it really feels like plot points for the most part of these episodes, which kind of just didn't, especially the ending, which we could talk about. There were some nice moments, but for the most part, it like was overshadowed, I feel like, just by saying we need to get to this point of the story to end the show and feel like we wrapped everything up. So
when we left the last discussion, half our heroes were, or half our the protagonists of the story, the kids, were sheltering on the roof. They had a campfire and waiting for rescue, and the bully character climbed up the side. He's now infected and kind of the leader of the zombies around the school, it seems. I mean, not really, but kind of represents that kind of role, I guess. And he climbs up the side of the building, and he kind of lunges at them, and it kind of cuts to credits, and then we kind of pick up where that, and there's a fight, and then ultimately he spares them, and he jumps, or he gets thrown off the roof.
He jumps off, which happens multiple times. Him getting thrown off or jumping off a roof.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that, because that's why I was just kind of summarizing that scene, really, because this is not the first or last time he's been thrown from a roof. He just, it's ridiculous how many times they play that card in this show, of people falling and not having any impact. And yeah, it was very weird. And then the kind of general who's controlling the kind of marshal who's overseeing the kind of quarantine of the city, he has kind of enforced martial law, and he's got people locked up in the quarantining on the island, and he sends a helicopter to the school in order to get the data from the science teacher who created the virus, which I thought was a cool way of getting them to the kids, getting the kind of the rescue services to the kids. And then they say, okay, we got the data, but they leave the kids behind, which I thought was interesting. One of the kids gets rescued. One of the kids who's been bullied quite a lot, and he feels like an outsider. He gets rescued first, and isn't it that he says, "Oh, there's nobody here"?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah. So
right?
he leaves. Yeah, because he's like he's scared of what's on the other side, but he's also dealing with the bullying that's happened to him, and if he should just leave everyone because they've treated him poorly too.
Or
And so
that may have even happened in a previous episode. I think did it?
did it? It
It
could
may
have,
have,
yeah.
because they're on the roof at that point anyway. I see. This is the problem. All these
Yeah,
episodes
yeah,
really
yeah.
do blur together,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's
it picks up with
yeah,
him at the camp though, from
yeah,
having that's how he got there. And so
yeah,
and they have a reunion with him and the other girl who was bullied, who's now a half zombie, which is really that was the turning point for me, where I was like, oh no, this like it feels like they've reduced her character, which was a very strong character, the one that is was bullied and now turned into a zombie. They reduced her to a plot point almost. It feels like,
yeah.
um, because
She's
like
the yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say she's basically there so they can witness, so they can do
Yeah,
tests, they can check her temperature and things like that. She's not.
yeah,
She's there to reveal herself that she's a zombie, and
yeah,
then just get experimented on. Yeah.
yeah. She doesn't even get a proper ending. We just stop seeing her near the end. We don't even know if like because they're testing on her, and we don't even see if they like because there's the flash forward in the end, but we don't even see them wrap up her testing or them kill her or anything. So that's where it's like she's just kind of forgotten, and it feels like they uh, bit off more than they can chew, uh, because like they have so many characters and um, they're just trying to do so much, and that's what I felt like watching these last four episodes. They're just racing to wrap everything up or kill people off. Um,
And so we have them on the roof, and they then decide, well, we're going to have to go back downstairs again now, and they start kind of they get it becomes a bit they reunite with the archery team, and they all kind of form a group, and I think brother and sister reunited and so on, but it eventually turns into a kind of, it's almost like the A team. We got to figure out a plan, and we got to retrieve this,
yeah.
retrieve that, and kind of assemble. And
Can I ask?
nothing much happens. I mean, it's yeah. Go
Yeah.
on.
Which on those episode or that episode, all that happens in, I enjoyed like that's those action sequences of them getting to the gymnasium, and then there's like some fun stuff in the gymnasium, but like it's all sacrificed for, or that's like character is all sacrificed for that, I feel like. Um, and so, but so my question was, is that so? There's this whenever it starts raining and they're on the rooftop, there's thunder and the rain is like affecting them. Is that I was trying to remember, is that in Last of Us at all, where it's like raining and the zombies are affected?
No, I
Or
don't
is
think
that
they're
a
affected.
new
It felt like that was an interesting. Um, that felt interesting. I like that.
yeah.
The idea of the people who are half, I think they call it half bit, isn't it?
Hmm.
They've still got they're still conscious, and they start covering their ears. There's one girl in particular, like, who just is deeply affected by the thunder. She covers her ears every time because it's it's just too loud for her, and I think she's more sensitive to it. And eventually, later on, the soldiers use drones to draw the zombies. They use drones to create noise that draws the zombies into one spot so they can kind of nuke them, or not nuke them, but
Yeah.
blow them up. And yeah, so I thought that was a really interesting kind of next step.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and this is me armchair screenwriting as usual, I would have embedded that into the idea that you don't know who's infected in the group. They never really kind of explore there's so many of them in terms of their survivors. Yeah. There's so much room for you were bitten during that action sequence, or you were bitten. Like you mentioned The Last of Us. I did a video on The Last of Us. It's up now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really loved in the first game is that there's a character, I won't get into spoilers, but there's a character in it who gets bitten, but hides it for the sake of the mission. And it comes out later when, through the way they're panicking, the way they're talking, another character is like, she's been bitten. And it's a great moment. And you're just like, wow, okay, I didn't see that, And I love the idea that you've got this moment that is uncontrollable and is an instant giveaway that you're infected or that you've been bitten. But you can't explore that because it only works if you're half bit.
Yeah.
And because the infection takes over so quickly, which I always thought was a bad idea. But that's fine. You can have more people be half bit than you realize. It just sounds weird calling them that, half bit, but you can have people be semi-conscious, let's say. You can have more of them, but they give themselves away because of the loud noise. And I think there's something that they could have played that would have been very dramatic, or would have been a nice twist. A group of them running, one of them has to stop because the thunder's too loud for them. And now everyone just stops and goes, oh no, you've been bitten, haven't you? It never feels that they take advantage of that, except just to lure everybody into one space and blow them. It's the old Lord of the Rings problem, which is you've got this great backstory for this monster or this cave or this place that we're going to go to, but we're only going to tell you when we get, as we're about to enter, because it's not really relevant at any other point. And so we'll just tell you right as we're about to go in. And then it'll just have value in that scene, and then we'll be gone again. That works for Lord of the Rings and movies like that because there's so much to do, but there's not that much to do in this show. And you could be foreshadowing, I think, a lot more.
Yeah.
You could be foreshadowing those kinds of interesting traits a hell of a lot more. So at a certain point, we start to see the father. He's the father of one of the students. He escaped the quarantine island, the old prison, and now he's making his way back into town. And he eventually, I'm kind of merging all the episodes together here. I'm just going to kind of explore the threads here instead. He finds his daughter as they're all about to escape the school, but then he immediately sacrifices himself to let them out, to let them get away, in what was probably the most unnecessary sacrificial scene I've ever seen in a zombie movie. So they're in a tennis court, and there's just a small chain link entrance, like chain link fence all around the tennis court, and it's just a small little door on the fence, and there's just a tiny little lock, a tiny little turn of the thing. You could have just stuck your finger through and turned it, surely. It's a chain link fence. It's not a wall. It's not a physical, solid barrier.
Yeah.
And he come on, guys. And he uses flares and all that stuff to distract him. And then I thought, oh, he's going to get killed now. But then I thought, no, there's no way they're going to kill him off after all this journey. And then he gets them out. He kind of shoos them out of the tennis court. And then he just closes the door, and he's right there. There's no gap. It's not like he fell and there's now distance between them and he's saying go or anything like that. He's literally right there with them. He could just literally go out to the other side of the door, close the door, turn the lock. And there is a
Yeah.
moment, there's like this pause, this quiet pause where he looks at his daughter and his daughter looks at him, and there's no zombies because, time has magically slowed down, but it hasn't slowed down. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like this is like a lingering slow motion shot. It's just a moment of weird quiet between the two. Weird because a second ago you couldn't even give yourself time to get on the other side of the fence. So he had plenty of time, and it really annoyed me. It so annoyed me because not only have we followed you on this journey since like the first 2 episodes, whatever it was, to get to your daughter, but then you abandon your daughter, like, because that's what he is doing. He's not buying them time. It's not him saying, "Oh, I'll stay here and I'll keep my finger on the button so the door stays open so you can get out." Like, it's not like that. It's literally just your kid would be safer with you alive, even if the zombies were still on your tail.
Yeah.
But by sacrificing yourself, you've bought them, only a few minutes of respite before they then encounter the next wave of zombies. So there's every possibility in the world that she's going to get killed in the next encounter. It's really bad writing. I'm sorry. I've tried to be as supportive as I can with this show. There are moments of genius in it. There are moments where it's a bit puzzling, but that was just bad writing because it was it's the Game of Thrones approach to character.
Yeah. Well, because like then it's just the whole like and I think it's in that moment that you're talking about, that quiet moment where she looks down and his hand is bit, but there's been like 3 or 4 encounters like that he's like in this tennis court like sequence where he's been tackled or like thrown a zombie off, but there's never like we've never been shown that like which one, or at least that I caught, which one he was bit in. And I was like, when did he get bit? Because usually it's not really hidden, or it's at least like hinted at, like, oh, he starts to bite at his hand. And so like,
but it doesn't matter if he's bitten. That, like he didn't need to be bit. He didn't need to be bitten. That's the problem. It was such a waste of a character.
Yeah. And even all the times that he has been tackled are no different than the 100 other times he's been tackled in all the other episodes. And he's the smartest of any of the characters. So because of his training
and you don't learn that he's been bitten until he locks the fence, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the problem is that in that moment when he's not locking the fence, I'm just like, no, keep going, you idiot, and it's
right.
You need to kind of, I don't know, you need to foreshadow that again. Like, you can't just have these things happen in the moment, particularly when it's this long thread that you've been exploring. It's got to be better paced than that. It's got to be, you got to plant those seeds a bit more. And then he dropped, so along the way he dropped his flashlight, and then she finds the flashlight, and it's it's totally contrived. It's like, no, there's no way you found that flashlight. Your father just happened to bump into you. He's been traveling back here. I know he's coming to the school intentionally, so like there's a chance he'll catch you, but it just happens to be he's right there when you guys come out, and it's you're the first one out the door, like, isn't it? I mean, the daughter was the first one out the door, and she sees her father. Very convenient, but that's fine. Television can do that. But then it's very convenient that he's able to sacrifice himself and buy you time, and then it's very convenient that you find his flashlight, which has no value. It doesn't feel like it's a flashlight. I mean, who cares? It's I know it's. How did she know it was her dad's? I don't know. It just felt very.
It does. I think it has his engraving of like his like fire team.
Oh, okay.
And his name on it. So
and
that's it really only feels like that's used to then later on show without saying to his other team member that he didn't make it back. Like once they're back at the camp. So
the other kind of thread that I kind of was trying to scratch my head around was the politician, The
Yeah,
I can't remember what
yeah.
title she has. It's like a congresswoman or
Mhm.
a counselor. Uh, I I still don't think I fully understand the role that she played in this show. Can
Yeah.
you explain that to me? Because if I thought there was going to be she was going to have a role in how the law and how the pandemic was going to be dealt with, or how the we're going to get to see the politics of a pandemic, which I think we've all been witness to in our wherever we've been living. Uh, and I thought that was the role that this would play, but it didn't really amount to anything, did it? I mean, am I
No,
mistaken? I mean, am I not seeing the
there's
value of it? What did
no,
you make
no.
out of that?
I mean, it feels like another one that's forgotten, or just like written into a corner to where it's like, oh well, she can't do anything. So, but even though we've set this up, spent time on it, now that it can't do anything, let's just move away from it. Um, and so like because there's the last scenes I think of her are whenever they're interrogating her on the firefighter dad leaving or like escaping, and she takes credit for it in more of a political move, and then that's kind of the last like thing she's really been like able to do, because then they start quarantining all the people from the school's like hometown and where the virus starts, and so they throw all of them in like in jail, and that's kind of where we stop seeing a lot of these story threads. Even to go back to so episode 8 to episode 9, in between, somewhere in between there, the uh I mean I guess like they end episode 8 with the police detective storyline, and he hits the girl who's been bullied, who's now a zombie, and then the military shows up, and that's like the last thing that we see of which they actually shoot at them. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Like through the bus and stuff. But so you have like the baby, the police detectives, and like the comedic one. And you know what character I forgot about? The YouTuber.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that's the last time we see him. Was in episode 8, which he was never really big, but to bring him back and then just forget about him. Um, but so it starts episode 9, and they're already back at the camp, and then that's it. And we get like maybe one or two scenes with the police detective who we've spent a lot of time with. Um, so
And that kind of buddy relationship, that kind of opposites attract relationship, that was gone, and that was the best thing in the show. I thought that was by a country mile the best thing in that show. And I'm not saying like there are some really cool things in the show, but that was such a strong thread.
yeah,
And as you say, it kind of just pitters out, doesn't it?
yeah. And like because why did they have to be found by the military? Why can't their journey continue back to the school? Um, and I guess like I guess that's how the military helicopter goes in to retrieve this stuff. But I don't know. It would have been nice to still have that thread going on.
I think
Um,
the idea of I love the kind of the grouping of those three guys, the baby, and
the younger girl.
the younger woman who was bullied
Yeah.
and harassed and abused in the school. And I love the idea that there's a potential TV series or or a sequel where she where that group are just kind of continuing on together, and there's no kind of bullshit. It's just they're all looking out for each other. Everybody's got their back, and they might drive each other mad, but it's all about let's take care of this baby, and we're survivors. We're going to continue. We're
Yeah.
not rescued by anybody. We're just in our bus driving across South Korea in this pandemic. Like there's something there, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it should have done, but I never agreed with the idea that the victim, that young girl, should have been turned into a vampire, should have been turned into a zombie. It's the
Yeah.
biting thing. We keep referencing biting. I didn't think she should have ever been turned into the girl who was bullied. I didn't think she should have ever been turned into a zombie.
Yeah.
She's the one person who deserved a clean break.
Yeah.
Who deserved a chance at a moment's peace. And it felt like it could have just come from being in that group. The army didn't really have the best response because the general, the man in charge of the response, he commits suicide then, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that didn't feel very natural either as a kind of a plot point for that character. It just
like
felt
I get
like
like it's heavy, but it also doesn't really add anything new to this genre, or like, because that story beat is kind of, it's played out, like, and I mean for a reason, but like it didn't feel like much imagination was employed to like come up with a lot of these things, and which is what made me, I think, the saddest watching these episodes was just like, man, there are some good stuff throughout, some like the first 8 episodes, mostly first or the second 8 or second 4, but there's some good stuff that's like inventive, and that's like this chunk of episodes really felt like it just got back into its bad habits of not moving the genre forward much, and not focusing on character, and just saying like, oh well, we need to end this logically, as a pandemic, or as a like how to get like the world back to normal.
yeah, and the kids get rescued, and they, they, after the father sacrificed himself and so on, they eventually get rescued, and not before the kind of main boy of the group and the bully have their final showdown, and they get obliterated in the he gets bitten. He kind of, before he loses consciousness, he manages to have the showdown with the bully. The bully pops his eye out, I think, doesn't he? And gets revenge. But then the two of them get burned to a crisp by the blast.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
It was just another one of those like, okay, it happened. There wasn't anything like powerful. I mean, there was one moment, I think, really, like, his acting was good. Like, I think that's what, like,
yes, because this is an acting podcast.
Right. Yeah.
If that's what we have to go to, then it speaks volumes,
right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah, but like, but what I'll say from the writing is like, is he the protagonist? Because if so, like, tell me about his character. I know like very little about him, and like what's his arc. Like, everyone else around him is so much more interesting than he is to me.
Yeah, he's definitely not the he's definitely the, I think the one that had the best chance of survival, in terms of like he was out there so long, he defied the odds for so long. But I couldn't I think I couldn't figure out. I think the problem is I was so bored by the bully at that point.
Same, yeah.
I was so bored. They overplayed the hand so much. The idea of him getting pushed out of a building, climbs back up. There's even a moment where he jumps off a building himself in order to just take a shortcut to get to, like, they completely overplayed and overused his abilities. And showed him too many times. And it was just like, a great villain. Like, I mean, I was seething with rage the first time, like when he was doing the kind of things he's doing as the bully. Like when he's drawing on the back of her shirt in the classroom, the young
Yeah,
girl's shirt. I was so angry. I was like, man, like I want this guy to be the first one to get bitten, right?
yeah.
But the idea that I was so uninterested in his death by the end. And I should have been cheering from the rooftops. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I should have been, this is just, and Squid Game, I mentioned Squid Game in our very first discussion, did a great job of doing that, where it would make you
Hmm.
really hate this particular kind of bullyish character in that group. And then when the guy meets his end, or when certain characters who are kind of really antagonistic meet their end, you are just like, there's a kind of a sick
Yeah.
pleasure
It's
in
like,
it.
oh, thank you.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I think this just had none of that. I was just bored. And
And like, because on the opposite end of that, I'll bring up Train to Busan. Have you seen that movie or heard of it? I mean, it was mentioned in the show.
I've seen little bits of it, but yeah, it was mentioned and it's
Yeah.
been on my list. After Squid Game, everybody
And
told me I should watch it.
yeah, yeah. It was probably, I think it was the first South Korean movie I watched back whenever it came out. And like this show owes everything to that movie, I think. And they even like mention it in one of the first
Yeah, yeah.
episodes
I
where they're
hated
like,
that.
"This is a Train to Busan."
I
Yeah, and
hated
it's
that.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
and
this means that all that kind of stuff exists. This means that that like
yeah,
Netflix exists in this universe and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
know it's not Netflix
yeah,
film, but you know, it's
yeah,
I hate when they do that in movies. No,
yeah,
the kind of the unspoken rule is you
yeah.
don't
Don't
acknowledge,
mention
and that's why I
it.
don't like when they mention the word zombie, because it's like, yeah, you're only
Yeah,
saying that because you've watched movies about this
yeah,
stuff, and it's like
yeah,
that means we're blurring a line. Like you know, when anyway,
yeah.
I'm rambling. Go on.
No, no, like yeah, I definitely agree that like you can pay like pay your dues to it and like maybe like a visual like nod or something, like, or just nod to it, but don't say this is like Train to Busan.
Yeah, it's so
um
lazy. It's
yeah,
so
yeah.
lazy. And just
uh
on that subject, sorry, I will get. Sorry, I will let
no,
you
no,
speak.
go ahead.
The title, All of Us Are Dead. I've been wanting to say that. I don't know if I did mention this. I hate the title so much.
Yeah,
It is the
yeah,
laziest title. It is,
yeah,
I mean, it is a trend I'm noticing with Netflix. They're doing lots of lazy titles. I don't know if this is a translation or a poor translation or
yeah,
an alternative, a kind of a Western alternative, but
yeah, maybe.
this is not a good title for a show where, spoiler, they're not all dead. They're
They're
not dead.
not all-
In fact, they managed to
yeah,
stop it, don't they? I mean, anyway,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah. So I
And
think
well, and
there's a trend. There's a trend of that in this show. Yeah.
yeah, like this, All of Us Are Dead fits with like The Walking Dead. If that was The Walking Dead's title, it fits with that because everyone in that show is like already infected, so they are Walking Dead like at some point. So like yeah, with this it doesn't really like tie back to the show at all. I was wondering how it's yeah. But so yeah, back to Train to Busan is so there's so you were saying that there's in Squid Game like you get the feel like the nice feeling of like a character finally dying. There is that, so the in Train to Busan there's this character who quickly becomes an antagonist to the rest of like the train, and he's like this political figure, I believe, or like a higher up, higher class, and so he's used as an allegory to just like ruin every like all the characters at every turn. And it's very much the same as the bully, but it's so much more effective because it doesn't happen 100 times. He's not like dispatched like and then like comes back. Um he like it's just like very, it hits the point home so much better and has that allegorical side to it where it's like, okay, I get that like this guy is here to piss me off for a reason, to make a statement. And but then it is concluded, and I won't spoil like how or when or whatever, but it's wrapped up, in a satisfying manner. And it's just done so much, like it's just thought out so much
Exactly. And
better.
I said in our first discussion that this was Lord of the Flies with zombies, which I'm all in for that premise. That sounds like a cool premise. And
Yeah,
but it's not Lord of the Flies. You know,
yeah, yeah.
it's a group of kids who are starting out fumbling over their words about how they feel about each other. You know, I've got a
Hmm.
crush on you and things like that. And by the end, it's still that. I mean, in the last episode, there's literally a scene where one of the characters tries to the guy who can sing, the guy. I think he sings, doesn't he, in order to,
Yeah,
or he wants to be a
he,
pop
I,
star or something, or I don't know. And
yeah.
he sings at the moment when they're doing the video recordings at the end of one episode. He
Hmm.
sings instead of speaking.
He's kind of like the comedic relief
Yeah,
character.
yeah, and but he's a very one-dimensional character, I have to say. So there's a moment where they're sharing. They find a chocolate bar, and they
Yeah,
open it, and they all take a little bite. And he says, so the first guy takes a bite, and this character gets annoyed. He says, "I told you take a tiny bite," and everyone else takes a tiny bite, and then it comes back to
yeah,
him, and he assumes he's the last person, and there's a bit left, like a sizable bit left, and he just gobbles it up. And guess what? He's the larger of the other guys, you know. So like they're
yeah,
playing into this idea that, oh, he must just be obsessed with junk food or whatever, you know, which is
yeah,
so stupid,
yeah,
so stupid. And but
yeah,
then it turns, but he's the guy giving out to everybody else for taking a little bite. And they, when other people are taking bites and the bar is going down, you can see him. He almost like wants to cry about how he's seeing his prospects of eating going down. I just thought, what a one-dimensional approach to a teenager. You know,
yeah, yeah,
just he's the guy who just likes food. That's his thing.
yeah,
And I just thought, come on, is that the best we're doing? And then he eats the rest of the bar. And then he forgets that there's someone next to him who
yeah,
never got a bite, and he just, oh God, I'm really sorry, man. I thought you were, and it's
yeah.
and
No, well,
and then that guy sacrifices himself. The guy who never got any chocolate, he sacrifices
yeah.
himself later on. And I'm like, why? Because you didn't get any
They just
chocolate.
straight up kill him. Like after he doesn't get chocolate, he gets just thrown away.
Well, I guess you don't have the energy that it takes to go
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
woods now, where there's
yeah,
probably something you can eat. I don't know. It's
yeah.
so
Well,
stupid.
and like, and the kid who's reduced to liking food, I love the acting. The actor is great, and I
Yeah,
wish
he's
he got
great.
more
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, yeah.
Like, because he does play those comedic elements really well, and like he's one of the ones that survives. But like again, what was his arc? Like it doesn't go anywhere with the girl that he likes.
Yeah.
Like which I don't think it needs to, but that's kind of all that he has.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you said it doesn't go his way, because every time I saw a character suddenly get written off, like there's the woman the girl who wears the kind of the pink cardigan, and she's hiding in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
storage cupboard, and she's got like all the cans and stuff like that, and then she goes out and she's about to go out and kind of face the world, and then she gets picked off by the
yeah,
bully, and there's loads of
yeah,
characters like that. There's the woman,
yeah,
the girl who's being abused and victimized, and you think maybe she's going to have some sort of powerful trajectory here. Nope, she gets bitten straight away, and it's lots of that stuff going on. And I'm beginning to think, okay, maybe they're doing the Game of Thrones route. Life isn't fair.
hmm,
Just because you're on a quest doesn't mean you're going to get to live to see the end of that quest. Just because you have the chance to do something profound doesn't mean we're going to give you the chance to do something profound. Okay, I get it. Life isn't fair. But the problem is that this show ends on a very positive note. The pandemic is controlled and contained. The group of survivors, what people do survive, what few do survive, tend to kind of have this more kind of like, we're moving forward with our lives. It's like tomorrow will be another day and a better day. The next day will be better again, and so on and so forth. Like, for a show that just seems to put out, to kind of snuff out flames so quickly, the ending of the show is completely at odds with that.
Yeah.
because I did
Yeah.
not expect this to be a positive outcome at the end. Positive, all things considered, you know.
Hmm.
What did you make about the ending? How did you feel it tied into the overall tone of the show and all that? I mean, is there anything else we can read into the ending that I haven't already explained?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the moment where they're going um so they're going back to the school because they see that there's a fire on the roof, and they assume that it's one of the other girls who's turned into a zombie and half um or is still human. But so they assume that she's gone back and she's like signaling them to come, and then they go there, and like all of the surviving members. And I will say, like, back on the point where they are coming to the camp, like there's a moment where they're walking to safety, and it cuts in like everyone who they've lost at this, or like along this journey of all the characters that have survived, that the person that they've lost, kind of. And that's kind of a nice moment, like just visually, just hammering home, like it's about like the people that we like carry with us now. Um, but so there's there's one that doesn't fit. Uh, then it's the last, the other main guy.
Mm.
He thinks of the other guy, like the one, the protagonist, the actual protagonist. He
The
thinks
one
of
who,
him, and
yeah, the one who killed the
yeah,
bully.
and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and that's totally like, that had to have been a note of like, we need to see him again. And so they, instead of doing that, they did the girl that he liked, or instead of doing the girl that he likes, they did the
And
protagonist, because
doesn't that
he
tell
had
you
no one
just
else.
how doesn't that tell you just how random these characters' relationships are?
Yeah, yeah,
You don't even have, like, you've got a scene, or just even random how random the structure is, that you've got a
yeah,
scene where people are going to be remembering other characters, and you're like one of the most valuable player in this whole game of survival. Even if he didn't survive, none of them would have survived without him.
yeah,
And and
yeah.
he's the one who beat the antagonist and all that kind of stuff, and he doesn't get remember he has to get shoehorned into his own memorial, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
so anyway, yeah, sorry,
But
continue.
yeah, so no, so jumping back to the ending, so they're on their way to the rooftop, and like this is where it kind of like, it does feel at home with the South Korean like cinema of like
Mm,
that tone of, it's kind of like it's kind of dreamlike.
mm.
Uh, it's very like visual poetry, and so like it starts to snow, and like they go up to the rooftop, and the fire is going and no one's around it, and so then they all kind of talk, and I liked that scene for the most part, whenever they're talking about like who it could have been. They're kind of like mentioning, oh well, it could have been this, it could have been this person. And I liked that notion of like, yeah, it's like it's it could have been any of
Yeah,
us. Like, it could have
that
just
was
been
very,
kids
yeah,
just coming back to the school to like reminisce. And that was powerful for me, because I was like, oh man, like we spend most of our time in school wanting to get out, and
yeah,
then we go like, and then we reminisce about it the rest of our lives. And
yeah.
that's a strong theme that I felt watching that and could relate to. And then they turn that in, like the show could have ended there for me, and I would have been like, nice, like that's a like, that's a nice ending. But then they turn that, and the girl comes back, and she uh in exposition play like says that there's like more that she's like taken in under her wing, and they're building like a community of half zombies that are left over. And she kind of like says like, it's nice to see them, and uh it just felt like way
And then,
too
okay,
easy and on the nose.
I had to rewatch the ending twice because I thought, oh, I must have missed something here. So they're having that conversation. One of the girls who's left behind, who's now half zombie, she,
Yeah,
yeah, she comes out. They have their moment with all the other survivors, and then they stop, And then she kind of looks, because she obviously has heightened senses, and she looks away
Yeah.
and she says, "It's them." And
Yeah.
and then she just runs in slow motion, hops over the
Jumps.
roof. This is the roof of the school, and she hops over the roof like she's like it's almost like I thought, oh, she's going to rip open her cardigan now, and we'll see the Superman symbol underneath. It was that kind of a shot, the way of Superman getting ready to go into. She just kind of just zips up and hops over the wall, presumably to fall and break every bone in her body and then have it be reassembled later on, she's not flying.
Because that's what they've shown.
Because she's not flying or anything like that.
No.
It's not like she's going to land down like she's Alice from Resident Evil and then run away again. Is it Alice? Yeah, and she's just this is literally just this weird ending to like, and I was thinking, is season 2 like the superhero zombies now? Is that what this is? If there is one, I don't think there will be one, but it was very, very strange and off-put, like just totally at odds with what this show was meant to be. It's supposed to be called All of Us Are Dead, and they go back to the camp, and I thought, brilliant. We don't know who said. Oh, we do. And by the way, this is a tiny, small little campfire. And they're able to see it from halfway across the city, by the way. Like, anyway.
Whatever. But like they end the show with someone jumping off or falling off of a roof.
Again, I know.
That point.
It was so.
Well, and then all of that happens, and the very final frame is all of the other kids, the surviving kids who aren't dead. They are looking upon her community. We have no idea how big it is.
We haven't seen
it. Feels like it feels like it's implying, oh, it's big.
But just on the subject, sorry, when she turns and says it's them, I had to rewind because I was like, did I miss a sound?
Who's them?
There is no sound. It's literally she just there's no sound. There's no like crying in the distance. I mean, unless I missed it, but I thought there would be this like big howl or something, and you would think, oh wow, there's a crowd down there. No, and very bizarre, really bizarre. I could not have guessed that was how it would end.
Yeah, and like I'll bring this up too, because it feels very like I said, they wrote themselves to where they're like, we have to resolve this. Like this pandemic, this virus. And even in the show, it says, there's a line of like, even if we are back to normal, like what humanity do we have left? Which is very much to like a point of this pandemic in real, like COVID-19. So it's about this in real life and in a lot of zombie movies, or this show that it opted to not do. It's about like synthesis of us taking what we've learned from this journey and living with it. And the perfect example, funny enough, is Shaun of the Dead. They end that movie so perfectly with thinking through, obviously it fits the tone of the movie, but that movie has a conclusion to the zombie apocalypse, and it's about them living like together with the zombies and using them in that movie like as like a joke basically. But that's why that's why I feel like this show was like, we need to resolve this pandemic by blowing everything up and killing everyone, and then not even really like saying like, oh, we'll get back to normal someday, kind of like. That's the sense that I got from like the wrap up of the show. And so it's like, real, like you couldn't come up with anything else to just say like, we are living like that area is zoned off, or whatever, like of some sort of something that didn't have to be spend so much time wrapping up plot wise. The military side, the political side, the actual logistics. I'm not interested in the logistics of how they get back to normal whenever you've spent so much time with certain characters. So
To me, this is a show that had a familiar formulaic first act of the kind of you'd expect from any zombie movie or TV show. But I thought it had a really powerful second act, let down then by a very rushed, careless conclusion of threads that they didn't really know what to do with. Is there anything wrong with the father surviving and actually getting to stay with his daughter? Really, would that have been so bad? Would there have been any problem if the girl who'd been bullied and victimized, if she had somehow made a recovery even or something like that, so it's not just written
or
off,
even mentally, like as a character come back around and be able to be like, no, I'm better, I've grown, and I know, like you said, I think last episode, like I've grown to know that like there's life outside of the school.
Yeah, it does feel like they're muddling their messages. They didn't really fully understand the themes that they're playing with in this story,
or lost themselves along the way.
Yeah. It when we were doing our discussions of the Book of Boba Fett, I made the kind of I described it as, it's almost like there's a moment where the show kind of takes a big turn in terms of direction, and brings in other characters and so on that you just were never going to expect to find in this show, and it felt like they were making the show week by week, and it was a response. It was like, ooh, traffic is down, so let's just bring in the big name, and this kind of feels like that as well. It feels like they're making this week by week, and maybe different writers were brought in for each week, and they didn't know. I know that's not how it was written, but that's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah.
I don't care if they I don't think they will make another one. I don't think that's the point of this, but I don't think this show will be.
Might.
You think so? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It feels like it could.
Squid Game is a show that didn't need a second season at all. And I always think the biggest issue with it is the ending. Doesn't make sense. The ending doesn't work. We can talk about Squid Game another day, but it just doesn't work for me in relation to the rest of the show. I thought the last episode is the weakest link in the chain, and it feels like that. My understanding is that Korean television typically tends to just be one season, they move on. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I've been told that that's kind of the trend with lots of these types of shows. But it does feel like Netflix said, give us an ending where we can make another show if it's successful. This feels like it's the same thing. This feels like it was that shot of her jumping over the roof and kind of living to fight another day, as it were. I'll see you guys around, kind of thing. Is very much Netflix coming in and saying, we need an ending that suggests it could go in another direction. That next season could be following the half zombies, and how they work with the survivors or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it felt like that's and that ultimately, if that is true, it reinforces that idea of they just didn't know what to do with the third act of this whole story. Did it need 12 episodes?
No, I think that's what hurt it. Too much time. Yeah.
I did feel, I felt a connection for the characters in the final episode, that I thought, you've been through hell. Like, you've really been on a journey here. And I don't think I would have got that feeling if it wasn't 12 episodes. But I also think that I do feel they, as you say, they rushed it a little bit.
It's kind of the Last of Us 2 style of like, okay, we've been on this journey. I'm ready for it to be over because I know what you're going through. And like, I just want it to end because you're tired and I'm tired.
Sorry, I said they rushed it. I actually meant the opposite. They dragged it out. Sorry.
There's a moment. There was a strong moment there at the end where they're interviewing the kids and they're trying to get like information as to like solve what like stuff about the virus, about the teacher who created it. And I think it's the it's the main girl. She says she's like the very last one, I think, and she's like, "I'm never gonna help adults again," just based on what's happened and like them being abandoned and stuff. And I thought you could have ended the show there. Like that's driving
Yeah,
your point home.
that would be a great
Um,
smash cut to black. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's you're driving the theme home. Like this is what you've been getting to, and like just keep it simple. It felt like it was trying to say too much or do too much. So
And with that, we will smash cut to black. Thanks very much, Caleb. It's been cool chatting about this. We'll have to, yeah, we'll have to kind of watch some other zombie stuff and maybe do some comparisons, whatever. Maybe do a talk on Train to Busan, actually.
yeah, I would be
Um,
down for that.
so thanks very much, Caleb. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. If you haven't already, check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net. Follow us on social media, hit the links in the description, and subscribe to our podcast. Just search for The Script Department, wherever you get your podcasts, and give the video a like as well. Thanks very much, everyone.